Welcome back to Sibos TV, everybody. You're watching Mid-Morning Report. Well, we're going to talk about big data now. And just a few minutes ago, a session wrapped up in conference room 3, talking about exactly this, big data. And joining us to discuss some of the key issues that were raised in that session are Brian Kaplan. He is the editor of The Banker. Jennifer Boussouje is the MD, Head of Global Transaction Services, EMEA for the Bank of America. Thomas Statnik is MD, Global Head of Treasury and Trade Solutions Technology at Citi, and David Sir is the SVP, Retail Applications Technology and Operations at the Royal Bank of Canada. You all win the prize, by the way, except for Brian, for the longest titles on Sibos TV. So I don't know, we're going to have some champagne or something to give out. We're going to have the longest prizes, the longest names. Let's start with this session that you've just had. And Brian, I want you to put it all in context for us. Lots of new people to the conference this year. What exactly is big data?
Okay, well, this was the first question that we struggled with, quite honestly, this morning. So, because banks have always had to deal with a lot of data. They've always had a lot of customer data, and in a way that's part of their business. Now, to give a big to that data, you're really referring to the kind of new data that's being created with call centers, with the internet, with social media, which particularly on the retail side of banking, is both a problem and an opportunity. It's a problem for banks in terms of collecting all this data and then knowing what to do with it and how to use it, but it's also an opportunity because it gives you the opportunity to target particular customer segments. Now clearly in the session this morning we're more of a wholesale banking group, so we still have the same data challenges, but there's not really quite the sort of embracing of it in terms of it being a sort of new age thing. It's more a question of carrying on with what we're doing, but presenting data to customers in better ways and illustrating things and giving them sort of more analytics.
So out of this session that you've just come out of, what are the things that the banks or other people think that they should be doing that we need to start doing now, because we can't keep carrying on the way we are? I mean, a lot of data is out there, more data than we've ever had, but processing and also the kind of people, the kind of skills that you have in banks to do this.
Okay, well, I mean, all those things we covered. I mean, one was we had a question about, what's the best use of this data? Is it for fraud? Is it for risk management? Is it for regulation? Is it for serving the customers? It seems as if, in general, serving the customers was clearly the top pick. But then you're absolutely right. So how do you analyze it? How do you get the systems together? I think most of the panelists here don't feel that the technology is actually the biggest challenge. The technology is all out there, but finding the people who can both understand the technological side of it and the business side and bring those two things together, that really is a challenge. They're certainly not coming out of the universities, so I mean, it is a big push on to find these people.
Well, I think we've got some 3 smart people down this side who are all at banks. So do you agree with some of the things that he said? Tell us what has been your experiences from the bank side, the client side, if you like, of big data.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I think as Brian said, I think a lot of people, when they talk about big data, they view it as this complex technological problem that we need to solve for. But, ultimately the promise of big data is grounded in the simple idea that information breeds insights. And as I was saying in the session, our clients are looking for answers. Data is meaningless unless we're able to interpret it in a meaningful way for them and then pass it on to them as usable information to help them manage their businesses more efficiently.
How are you doing that at Bank of America?
Well, we're doing it on the wholesale side in a number of ways. As banks, we take in multiple sources of information across a number of platforms, be it through our payments platforms, our trade platforms, our investment platforms. So it's the ability, I guess we call it data mashing, of bringing all that information together and consolidating it and presenting it in a consolidated view for our clients so they can then use it either for cash flow forecasting or those types of applications.
Have you got some examples of clients that have used this and have found this very useful, and does it generate a return on investment for them? What kind of value does it add to their balance sheet?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I won't give client-specific names because that's confidential information. question. However, I would say since the onset of the financial crisis, treasurers are being required more and more to be able to understand exactly what their cash position is at any given time, at any given day, in all the different currencies across the globe, understand counterparty risk, and be able to manage that effectively. And the only way they can do that is by banks, being able to supply them that type of a data, and we can do that through a number of ways, through file feeds or portals or so.
Are you doing this at Citi as well, Thomas?
Absolutely, yes. Citi being such a global bank and in so many different countries, we absolutely have to consolidate and really leverage our data assets on a global basis in order to present them back to our clients. Our clients tend to be large multinational corporations or governments with global needs. And in order to be able to present a full picture to them, you have to use big data techniques to do that.
What are the things that they're increasingly specifically asking you to do? So I come in as a government or as a client of Citi and I say, hi Thomas, here's what I want you to do. What do they ask you for?
Well, ironically enough, many times they're asking us, what do we do with you all over the world? Many of our large global corporations have subsidiaries, different legal entity structures, and if you're the CFO or the treasurer of those companies, it's very hard for you to understand what's even happening in all the different countries you do business in, and really aggregate all of that up for them. So one of the biggest things we do is help give them a view of how they're processing, how they're leveraging their own working capital, how money moves around, where they're leaving balances, what their cash flow looks like, et cetera, et cetera.
At Royal Bank of Canada, same thing?
I think if people came to the session this morning expecting to have some magical technology answered for them, they probably walked away a little bit disappointed. I think we all made the similar point of this is not unlike any other technological and information age challenge that we've faced. It needs to start with a strategy, which I think that, the closing question around what would you do first, Tom, I think hit the nail on the head, is you need to start with a strategy that's shaped around business. So what is it that you're trying to do? What problem are you trying to solve? What revenue you're trying to grab? What products are you trying to sell? And data is one of the answers to that, but so are business processes or marketing programs or how you approach your clients. So.
Well, we've got to leave it right there because I know some of you have some very urgent appointments. So Brian is like, please get me out of here on time. I'm going to do that. So thanks very much to all of you for joining us. Have a great time in Dubai.